Hey everybody, how's it going? B Temple here again, and today we're going to move on to part 2 of our review of our Danish 24-hour summer ration, menu number 6. And if you remember from the first video, went through the unboxing and made the breakfast portion of the meal. Today we're going to run through the other 2 meals, I guess you call them dinner and supper. And we're going to leave a sort of lighter dinner and then have a larger meal for supper at the end. And you may notice a special guest coming along with the ration today. We've got ourselves an M1 Garand here, but not an American M1 Garand. It's a Beretta M1 Garand made after World War II in Italy, but the reason why I have this connected to this ration is the fact that this M1 Garand was actually issued to the Danish army after it was built in Italy sometime, I guess, after 1945. Not entirely sure exactly the year, but it does have a very, very, very low serial number. 2809. You can get that there. And that marking we see there, Crown FKF, that's the Danish royal insignia. This shows that this is a piece of material meant for the Danish military. Also got Beretta, Army, Roma, Italia, and even the stock itself has the 2809 serial number as well. So an incredibly low serial number, just to show that this gun is safe. There we go. So yeah, this is one of the jewels of my collection. It's got a few little dings here and there. Some, I guess, Danish soldier on NATO or UN peacekeeping missions in the 50s and 60s probably carried this. And it's got a few dings and scratches along the way. But this is a fantastic rifle, amazingly accurate. And it's helped me harvest a few moose as well. So this is just a great service rifle, but also a great hunting rifle. So just sort of, we'll have that in the background. So we're going to go and figure out exactly what it is we're going to have for our lunch, meal, dinner, whatever you want to call it. And then we'll get it all out into a tray and get it all prepared. So we'll be back in a second. Alright guys, we've got everything laid out that we're going to have for our lunch, dinner portion. And even though I say it looks like it's going to be a lot of food, we'll call this the light portion, the main entree that we'll have. For the rest of the items, the main entree is 400 grams, so it's an incredibly large entree. So we'll call that supper, our larger meal. But just to take a run around the table and see what it is we have here. We're going to get some peanut butter, a chocolate bar, a piece of whole wheat bread, Bridgeford shelf-stable whole wheat bread. Got ourselves a tuna and water, a mackerel and tomato sauce, a package of whole grain biscuits, a raspberry energy powder, and as well 2 jams. We've got black currant and raspberry, and then 2 cheese spreads, one which has shrimp and the other one has ham. So it's a fairly comprehensive, wide-ranging kind of lunch. I'm looking forward to seeing how it all goes. So first, let's get the drink mixed up. Actually, so this is a raspberry drink. I'm not entirely sure if this will end up being similar to an ORP, British ORP raspberry drink. I know that's a different brand name, but we'll see how similar the flavor is. It should have a tear notch on it, as we can see here. And it says it is meant to go with 500 mils of water. Now I can't quite mix 500 mils in this glass, but we'll get as close as we can. And I don't mind my beverage-based powders being mixed a little bit stronger than what they call for. That seems to have dissolved really well, actually. I'm quite surprised by that. Next, let's just, I guess, take a little run around. We'll first open up our biscuit packet. And what we have here are 3 very hearty whole wheat biscuits. You can see they're scored down the middle, so they should break off fairly simply into 2 pieces each. And as you can see, full of whole grains. This is not some sort of simple sort of white saltine kind of cracker. The smell of it is just a strong whole grain, you know, that kind of smell. Something it's very natural, very lovely kind of smell to it. And having had a pack of the extra crackers of these already, these taste fantastic. But we'll get to that. And next, I guess we'll open up our fish packets. And now, I'm probably going to enjoy this a bit more than I'm going to enjoy the mackerel, but I shouldn't judge something before I've actually tried it. So first of all, let's get this opened up and out onto the tray and see how it is. So it's just a little tiny 50-gram packet. And let's get our tuna opened up. These are very thin packages, so they pack them very tightly, but then you're left with this problem of when you open it, it's right where the contents are. So here we have our 2, I guess, protein sections of the meal. We've got ourselves a mackerel and tomato sauce and a tuna and water. This mackerel doesn't seem too bad. It doesn't give off that heavy fishy smell that you would sometimes get from mackerel. If anyone's ever seen my part 1 of my Slovenian 24-hour ration, there was a tin of mackerel and vegetables in that ration, and I don't know if it had gone bad or that's just the way it was, but it was beyond fishy. That's the only way to describe it. It was not particularly enjoyable. So I'm hoping this is going to be a little bit better. It doesn't give off that strong of a fishy smell as I was expecting, so that's at least good. So we'll see where the rest of it goes. First, let's just give our peanut butter a knead. It's a little bit dense, so I don't know how long this has been sort of sitting in its package. You could tell that the oils had separated, and there was sort of a hard section of peanut butter and then more of an oily section, so kind of just work it back together. I'll just tear a little corner off. Try to not get too much of a tear. And it's a little bit oily, but it's a creamy peanut butter, so that's to be expected. Next, we'll open up our chocolate bar. And this ends up being perfect, so that's good. You could tell just by the package that it had kept its form, its consistency. It hadn't melted in any way. And it hadn't even been broken into, you know, several pieces. And we're fairly lucky in that it doesn't appear to have very much or any surface bloom in any way, shape, or form. So it's fantastic. And already from here I can smell the that sort of standard dark chocolate kind of smell. It's going to be, I'm hoping, a nice sort of semi-bitter kind of dark chocolate. Oh yeah, that smells fantastic. That's going to be amazing. Next, we're going to get our whole wheat bread opened up. This is, of course, a Bridgeford shelf-stable whole wheat bread. And we don't need that desiccant packet. We don't need to eat that. So we see it's just a very dense sort of piece of, you know, shelf-stable bread. It's a bit thick. I'm going to try to slice this down the middle and try to make the most of it as possible. Because as you can see, I mean, we have peanut butter here, we have 2 jams, 2 cheese spreads, and to fish. So try to use this as a vehicle to move some of that into my mouth, as it were. So first, we're going to try to slice this down the center somewhat, without also cutting my hand open, which may be a job. There we go. That worked out pretty good, actually. I'm quite surprised. And I guess we'll just open up our little packets here, and then we'll start tasting things. So this is a raspberry jam. Seems to have a nice consistency to it. A good color. See the little seeds in there. And our black currant jam. As you can see, that's a very dark red, deep red kind of color to it. Smells fantastic. And then let's get our cheese spreads open. This one is the cheese spread with ham. Now these are expired, or technically have expired. 21/07/16. So they're quite expired. So I don't know if they're actually good or not. And that didn't want to open correctly. Yeah, it doesn't smell the greatest, but that could just be the fact that it's a soft sort of processed cheese, and it has that kind of smell to it, and you can tell there is some sort of pork product in there. It says it's ham, so. And let's get this one open, the cheese spread with shrimp, and this one also is expired. 25/09/16. And I'm really wondering how this is going to be, and once again, this one doesn't want to open correctly either. It's a white cheese, white processed treat cheese, and oddly enough doesn't smell that much different than the previous one. So we're just going to take a little run around the table and give everything a try. All right, guys. So let's just take a little taste of everything. See how this all goes. It's quite a lot of food, actually. Once you finally get it all unpacked and you see everything laid out, it's actually a fairly large meal. So these 24-hour Danish rations, they really don't skimp on anything. The next meal, the last meal, will be just as much food, or maybe even more. So these are very high quality, and I'm very glad to have gotten a chance to try one out. I'll certainly try to look for another one in the future. A different menu, of course. Maybe even try one of the winter rations, which are mostly all just freeze-dried. So first, let's just try out one of these biscuits on its own. You see they break apart really easily. Get that cross-section. These biscuits are great. There's absolutely no sweetness to them whatsoever. It's all just a straight, whole grain sort of flavor. But they should go well with these jams. So first we're going to try out the raspberry with it. Just give it a little dunk. Let's give this a try, see how it is. Oh wow, that raspberry jam is amazing. That tastes just like a homemade raspberry jam. Doesn't taste like some sort of commercial thing that you'd find for, $2 in a glass jar somewhere in a grocery store. It tastes just like something you'd make at home. It's amazing. I'm gonna enjoy finishing that off later. Let's try out the other piece of our biscuit with our black currant jam. This is a little bit more dense than the raspberry jam. Somewhat the same color, actually. Let's give that a try. Oh yeah, that's great. Seems to be a theme, I guess. It just so happened that the fruit puree in the first part of our review was raspberry blackcurrant, and that's just the two jams they happen to add. Completely different taste at all. The raspberry jam was very sweet, not overly tart, whereas the black currant jam seems to be the opposite of that. They really amped up the tartness of it. Not sour per se, but tart nonetheless. And just a little bit of sweetness at the end. So, you know, it's not making you pucker yourself up, but, you know, it really is a nice contrast, the two. See, we got a little piece of this biscuit left here. Let's just try a little bit of peanut butter on it. Some people find peanut butter to be very, very thirst-provoking. They find it to be very dry, dries out their mouth. I enjoy peanut butter a great deal, and I usually don't find that problem. As you can see, this is an amazingly creamy peanut butter. I would almost say it's probably a little tiny bit too creamy for my taste, but we'll see how it actually goes. Well, it's got a lovely natural peanut butter flavor. It, I'm sure, isn't just 100% peanuts, but it is 89% peanuts with dextrose and salt. So there's not a whole lot added. You can tell there's no added sugar. It tastes very similar to, you know, a 100% all-natural peanut butter that you would buy in a store. If I didn't know any better, I would say this is what it was. So that's a very high-quality peanut butter. I'm quite surprised by that. Let's just cleanse the palate a little bit and try out this raspberry drink. I'm quite curious to see how this is. The color of it is a little bit different than the British ORP raspberry drink. I think I mixed it at just the right amount of water. It's a little bit less than 500 mils, so you're getting a little bit of a stronger flavor. It's sweet, but not too sweet. And you're picking up sort of equal parts sweetness and tartness from the flavor of the raspberry. It has a nice natural raspberry kind of flavor to it, not some sort of artificial sort of raspberry candy kind of flavor. So it's actually really nice. Let's try out some of this fish on its own now, actually. Seeing I've got the spork already covered in this this mackerel, let's try out this mackerel and tomato sauce. Of course, it's interesting. I normally would never ever eat mackerel. But one thing these ration reviews has done is sort of, I guess, increase my tolerances for certain things. It's no need to open up something from a ration and just immediately say, oh, I'm not going to like that, and then you just don't even eat it. Well, you're not doing full service to the review itself if you're going to act like that. So you sometimes have to go against what you say your tastes are, and really try everything. So this is mackerel and tomato sauce. That's not bad, actually. I'm surprised. You can certainly tell it's a fishy sort of fish. It's a lot stronger, say, than what tuna will be, although I haven't tried the tuna yet, but I'm from what my assumption will be. Let's try a little bit of this whole wheat bread just to see what difference that makes. Get a nice bite there. Once you get a little bit closer to your face, it certainly does have that strong, fishy sort of smell, but it's not as bad as something I've had before, so let's just give it a try. And that really actually brings it out. Using the strong, dense whole wheat bread, it kind of cuts down on the pungent sort of fish taste you would get from the mackerel. So it actually does a nice job of making it a little bit milder, which then makes it more enjoyable for someone such as myself who normally wouldn't enjoy mackerel very much. Let's try out this tuna now. See how that's fared. It's a little more crumbly than the mackerel was. So remember, it's just tuna and water. Oh, that's fantastic as well. I mean, when it's tuna just packed in water, of course, you're really relying on just the flavor of the tuna itself. It's not like it's tuna lime and pepper like you would sometimes see, or tuna and mayonnaise, or tuna puttanesca, something like that, which is, you know, tomato-based and capers. You're really only relying here on just the tuna itself. It's a little tiny bit salty, but just salty enough, not too much. And it's got just a lovely mild sort of tuna flavor, not too fishy at all. Let's try this one out on the bread as well, just to see how that flavor combination goes. And that's really nice too, actually. I know some people don't particularly like the Bridgeford shelf-stable bread, especially the whole wheat one. They find it tastes almost a little bit too artificial. That one's actually not bad. It's, for the age of the ration, it still seems incredibly fresh. It's not dry in any way, shape, or form. I mean, of course, it's dense, but it has to be dense. That's the nature of it being shelf-stable. But the flavor, the whole wheat flavor, really, really comes through. And it really goes well with these things. Well, I guess there's not a whole lot left, actually. We could try out the peanut butter on the bread. Let's do that next. May have put a little tiny bit too much on there, but let's give this a taste. Even though this is an incredibly coarse biscuit, the peanut butter seems to go better with the biscuit than it does with the shelf-stable bread. It's almost as if the denseness of the bread really doesn't lend itself well to its combination with a creamy yet somehow dry peanut butter. It's a little strange actually to have that sort of combination, but such as it is. Let's just cleanse the palate again. Oh wow, that's that's fantastic. I'm really, really enjoying that. Not quite up to the level of being my favorite ration beverage I've ever had. The raspberry ORP beverage powder still holds that spot, but that would probably be a close second. It's absolutely perfect in its combination of sweetness and tartness, but still not quite 100% that fresh raspberry taste, which what I would usually get from the ORP beverage powder, but great nonetheless. So what we have left, guys, we've got peanut butter, which we could put on our chocolate, which we might do. We got our chocolate bar, and then we got our 2 cheese spreads. And a little bit apprehensive about trying these since they are, you know, over a year expired, and it is cheese with seafood in one and ham in the other. So let's just give it a little try, see how it is. It at least passes the sight and smell test, but I don't know about the taste test. This is an incredibly dense processed cheese. It's just tearing up the bread. Let me try that again with a piece of bread that's a little larger, so you can get a better view of it, so it won't break apart. There we go. So yeah, it's just a white processed cheese. Not quite creamy because it's too dense to call it creamy, but it has a somewhat creamy kind of texture to it. Remember, this is the one with shrimps added. They say it has shrimp in it. I can't discern any shrimp flavor whatsoever. To me, it just tastes like a very strong white processed cheese. That's all I'm getting. I'm not getting any seafood flavor whatsoever, which I wouldn't say is a bad thing, I suppose. It's still, I don't know, it could be the fact that it's over a year since it's expired, so it just might not be up to what its flavor should be, or maybe it's just like that all the time. I don't know. It's not particularly pleasant. It's something I certainly wouldn't go back for, but let's try out the other one, the cheese spread with ham, see if that's any different. Now when it comes to the smell, these 2 cheese spreads smell exactly the same, so it'll be interesting to see what the difference is in its taste. So it looks entirely the same. Even looking at it from here, you can't really see, you know, chunks of anything in it. I assumed with the idea that this was cheese spread with shrimp and this was cheese spread with ham, you might actually have sort of pieces of each individual item within it that you could see that would be discernible, but that doesn't seem to be the case. It's just sort of a flavor that's added, perhaps. But let's try out this cheese spread with ham. That's a lot better than the cheese spread with shrimp. The ham flavor doesn't hit you over the head or anything. It's sort of a faint hint almost of bacon at the very end, but not a great tasting bacon sort of flavor. Once again, could be due to the fact that the cheese spread is, you know, a year past its expiry date. But it's not bad, I suppose. That's the best way to put it. But it's not the greatest thing in the world either. So let's cleanse the palate one more time, and then move on to the last item, which is our chocolate bar. Yeah, that raspberry drink doesn't mix well with the flavor of that cheese spread in your mouth afterwards. But it's still not bad, I suppose. But that mouthful didn't taste nearly as good as the last two did. So, last thing we have, dessert, I guess you want to call it, is our little 25-gram chocolate bar. It's got a nice snap to it. But this seems like a really nice high-quality chocolate. Let's give it a try. That's a wonderful, somewhat creamy dark chocolate. It's not a really high cacao content. Like, I wouldn't think it sits anywhere in the 70 or 80% range, but if I had to guess, maybe somewhere along the lines, like in the mid-50s, low 60s sort of range for its cacao content. It's a little bit creamy, it's a little bit of bitterness, so it's really nice, well-balanced chocolate flavor. And just to try it, for the sake of trying it, I'm one of these kind of people who absolutely adores the flavor of peanut butter and chocolate together. So I can't not try this. So let's just get a little bit of peanut butter here on this section. Try it out. Little homemade Reese's. Oh my. That is amazing. I know how I'm going to finish the rest of this chocolate. That just... You couldn't ask for anything with a better flavor combination than these two things. Yeah, I've got to finish all this chocolate right now. This is just amazing. Okay, that was the perfect way to end this meal. That combination of a lovely semi-bitter, slightly creamy dark chocolate with that very natural, almost 100% peanut butter. Yeah, that's just it's just amazing. It's the only word I can say to describe it. I'm just sort of lost for words on how good that went together. I'm sort of sad now that all the chocolate's gone and I've still got peanut butter left. One more sort of mouthful and the raspberry drink, and then we'll finish up. Alright guys, this has been, I guess, the first meal in part 2 of our review of the Danish 24-hour summer ration, menu number 6. And I was quite surprised, actually, by how much I enjoyed the majority of the items here. Even the mackerel itself wasn't particularly bad. So, you know, I can sort of scratch it off my list of things that I say I don't like. I don't love it, but that was at least palatable compared to the last time I had mackerel in a ration. The only two things I would say I wasn't particularly a big fan of would be the two cheese spreads. Could be simply due to the fact that the cheese is a very strong, pungent sort of cheese, or could be due to the fact that it's a year past its expiry, and that's just the nature of it. So we'll get back to you guys as soon as I can now with the final and third meal to go along with this part of the review, and yeah, we'll get that back to you in a second.